Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here today. While there are a variety of factors that affect crime statistics, I'm increasingly confident that the actions that we're taking at the City of Milwaukee are making a positive difference in improving the public safety that we're seeing in the city. What we're seeing through the first half of 2023 is sustained reduction in homicides and a notable decline as well in auto thefts. When compared to this time last year, overall crime is down, and the Milwaukee Police Department is fulfilling its role. It's enforcing laws, it's solving crimes, and it's making our city a safer place. Our Office of Violence Prevention is also stepping up as well. And my focus on addressing the root causes of crime, long-term strategy, is repeatedly affirmed as adding to the positive efforts that we're seeing. So I'm working to build a strong local economy in Milwaukee with good jobs. That will reduce crime in our city. I'm actively supporting efforts to reach young people and steering them into productive and safe activities that are available throughout the city, because we really are resource rich in Milwaukee. I'm adding to neighborhood stability with housing efforts, and I want families to be less transient and better connected to the neighborhoods that they call home. And while the trends have been positive over the past year and a half, I'm not satisfied with the current levels of crime and violence. As some of you may know, earlier this week at the scene of a shooting of a 6-year-old, a reporter asked me if I was frustrated by incidents like this that unfold in the city. And the answer to that is yes, of course I'm frustrated, but I'm also motivated to continue to push to make Milwaukee a safe and safer city. I want Milwaukee to be safer, and will continue the work to make it so. I want to thank the leaders who are with me here today. Both Chief Norman as well as Director Hamilton join me in the desire to drive crime down in neighborhoods all across Milwaukee. But just as important, I'm counting on the people of Milwaukee to step up too. I've said it time and again. If you're a teacher, a preacher, a mentor, a friend, especially a parent, I need you in the game. There's no room on the sideline. Everybody has to be involved. So when you see problems, I want you to report those problems. If you have the opportunity to guide a young person on a positive path forward in our city, you ought to do it. You ought to help them. If you have the opportunity to be a good role model and model good civic behavior, you should do that as well. I want folks to engage with your neighbors in order to make your neighborhoods and therefore our entire city safe. So let's all have an expectation that Milwaukee will be a safer city. That requires work. It requires work from all of us standing here, but it requires work from everybody on the other sides of those cameras as well. But overall, I think we're moving in the right direction, and I want to, at this time, invite Chief Norman to share his perspective as well. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Good morning. The Milwaukee Police Department is committed to transparency and keeping our community informed. And so today, I'm pleased to share with you our city's 2023 second quarter crime data. This data tracks Part 1 crime for the period of April 1st through June 30th of this year. MPD uses regular updates to analyze our data, determine how we can best focus our efforts, and what numbers to reflect. I'm very pleased to report that this quarter, Part 1 crime is down 13%. Homicides for the quarter are also down 31%. Property crime has decreased by 18%. Auto thefts have decreased by 32%. I'm very pleased with the results. I hope we continue this downward trajectory. I thank the men and women of the Milwaukee Police Department who work to make our community safe. We're committed to addressing the behavior of our youth. We continue to see an alarming number of adolescents and young adults involved in firearm-related crimes. Youth resorting to guns for conflict resolution is unacceptable for us all, and this must stop. MPD works with a number of partners to prevent and deter this dangerous behavior. But let me be clear, MPD arrests when necessary. In addition to addressing youth behavior, I have tasked our department with holding parents and guardians accountable for the young ones. Know where your kids are, know who they're spending time with, and know where they are at night. And know if they have guns or access to guns. They have access to guns. It is illegal for anyone under 18 to possess a firearm. If you're an adult with firearms, keep them safely stored and away from young ones. As a reminder, MPD will do our best to enforce the laws, but we cannot be everywhere. We can rely on everyone in our neighborhoods to help us prevent harm to others. So if you see something, say something. MPD is addressing firearm-related violent crimes in many ways. A couple weeks ago, as you may recall, we launched Summer Guardian 2.0. We've taken a number of firearms out of the hands of those who bring harm to our community, while at the same time positively engaging with our community to build trust. I am pleased with our progress so far. MPD continues to prioritize domestic and intimate partner violence, human trafficking, reckless driving, and all other public safety issues that affect our community. I want to note all of our solutions involve our community partners. Again, I want to note that all of our solutions involve our community partners. I've said it many times, we cannot do this work alone. So for those of you who have come up to the table, thank you for your partnership. You are force multipliers and you are making an impact. I invite all of our community partners to work with us. There's a seat at the table for us all. As a reminder, every person who lives, works, and plays in Milwaukee is an important part of our public safety. If you have any information regarding criminal activity, contact the Milwaukee Police Department, or if you'd like to remain anonymous, contact Crime Stoppers at 414-224-TIPS. That's Crime Stoppers, 414-224-TIPS. We work best when we work together to keep this community safe. Thank you. I'd like to bring up Director Hamilton to the podium.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mayor. I really want to highlight two of the positions that were spoken to by the Mayor and the Chief. First, the Mayor saying there are a number of things that have a contribution into the downward trend that we're seeing with our crime statistics in the city of Milwaukee, and that we need to continue to invest in preventative measures to continue this downward trend. But I also want to really thank the police department for their collaborative approach in being able to build a broad table of partnerships and collaboration for those in the community to be able to participate in stabilizing our neighborhoods. And it's been a strong commitment by the MPD to allow community members to participate in that. We've had a number of organizations participating in some of our most troubled neighborhoods, attempting to take a preventative approach hand in hand with law enforcement in order to stabilize our neighborhoods. We've had hundreds of hours, both of volunteers and as well as extended OVP staff, 414 Life, Promise Keepers, as well as credible messengers, working in a number of different neighborhoods, attempting to reach the youth as well as their families to take a more responsible approach in de-escalating issues in neighborhoods, as well as, and you'll see some of this coming up weekend, a particular focus on gun safety and giving resources to parents so that they understand the responsibility that comes with having a firearm in your home. And so we want to encourage members of the community to take advantage of these trainings, and we want them to recognize that they are the first line of defense for the children in our community. So as we continue to move forward, there is a commitment on behalf of the mayor and the police chief to take a holistic approach to stabilizing our neighborhoods and making sure that this is a sustainable trend that we see going forward. And we want to reiterate the role that the community must play in continuing this going in the right direction. So as we continue to do that, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. The chief already gave the numbers for Crime Stoppers. But if there is an effort in your community to try to get some de-escalation training, gun safety training, parenting training, please reach out to our office so we can set those things up. 414-286-5597. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Director Hamilton. And with that, we'll take a couple questions.
Mayor Johnson, earlier this week, you were on the scene of a child shot. Every day this week, a child under the age of 5 has been shot in Milwaukee. I know you're frustrated, but we just talk about that. These are babies, these are kids being impacted by gun violence.
Yeah, I am frustrated by that. And that's why as soon as I got the news from the Milwaukee Police Department that child was shot, I went to the scene. I went to the scene and I talked to the neighbors that were on the ground. You know, one of the neighbors said something to me that I really took to heart. She said that when she was younger, when she was a kid, for her the rule was, much like it was for me and perhaps for many people here as well, that you could be outside until the street lights came on. Like that was your cue as a kid to start making your way home. The street lights were not on at that time. And so, you know, if kids in our city are not able to go outside and play until the street lights come on, let's just say, that's a problem. And that's something that we have to address, especially with people who should not have access to guns. We talk about this constantly, right? We don't have control of gun law at the local level, unfortunately. So that's why we need partners at the other levels of government, particularly at the state level, to engage with us, to work with us, in order to address that problem. Like, I understand that the legislature is what it is. Like, I'm not going to get sweeping legislation on guns. But if there's an opportunity for us to work on the margins, to make sure that fewer people who should not have access to guns don't get that access and then go into neighborhoods and hurt people, including kids, that's space where we've got to work. For instance, and the chief can correct me if I'm wrong, but there were over 700 guns that were stolen from cars in Milwaukee in 2022. Now, if people are out there and they're stealing guns from cars, then obviously those are people who should not have their hands on guns. I think all of us can agree to that. Is there room in state law where we can work together to make sure that people have, they take care of their responsibility as a gun owner, not to travel places with guns? And if they were to do that, to make sure that those guns are locked, that they are secured so that they don't get stolen, so that they don't end up in neighborhoods and then continue to see those guns used for criminal activities, including hurting kids in our neighborhoods. When I see and get frustrated by those incidents when a citizen is shot, especially when a kid is shot, I fully believe that our partners in the legislature are also deeply frustrated by that as well. And so that's a space where I'd like to work with them in order to address that.
Mayor Johnson, this morning, the chair and vice chair of the Park Police Commission announced their resignations, citing the shared revenue law that you helped to negotiate. If you had your way, would the FPC still have the power to set MPD and MFD policies?
You know, I've been very consistent about this, and I said in my private conversations with Republican leaders, I said it in my public testimony at the State Assembly, my public testimony at the State Senate, and several media accounts afterward, that it was my desire and remained my desire even afterward that the policy prescriptions that were tied to the bill were not there, that they were not in place. That includes those policies that directly affect the Fire and Police Commission. I wish that they were not there. So if I had a magic wand and was able to get Republicans to not include those policy provisions, then we would have done that. I think the thing that needs to be pointed out here is that these are policy positions that Republicans for years possibly wanted to implement on the city of Milwaukee. And because the city was in this very dire position where we would not be able to provide services. I mean, we're in the police administration building right now. If we hadn't gotten the sales tax passed, we would be in a position where we would have had to cut nearly half of the officers who go out there each and every single day protecting and serving this city. We'd had to have cut, nearly over a quarter rather of the fire department. We have had laid off over 400 general city employees who do untold jobs in neighborhoods across Milwaukee. Our services would have our services would have plummeted in Milwaukee. So Republicans saw that as a wedge, an opportunity to get some of those policy things pass, and that's exactly what happened. So yes, I don't want those policy things there. I never wanted them there, and if I could have stopped those things from happening, then we would have. Now, we were able to get them to draw back on some of the policy prescriptions that they were seeking to move forward with, but unfortunately some remained, including the ones that precipitated the resignation of both the chair and the vice chair of the Fire and Police Commission.
Mayor Johnson, what does losing Chair Falone and Vice Chair Avalos do to the Fire and Police Commission, and what do you do moving forward? Do you have any ideas who you may nominate?
Well, I don't have an idea on who I might nominate just yet. We'll have conversations on that. Certainly, I will put forward nominees to be confirmed to the Fire and Police Commission. You should remember that it's under my administration that the Fire and Police Commission finally got to 9 members after it had been the desire of the Common Council, the desire of community members for some time in order to do that. So I will certainly put forward nominees to replace Chairman Falone and Vice Chair Avalos as well. What does it do to the commission? I believe we're still at a position where quorum is still attained by the members who are presently there. Obviously, the Fire and Police Commission will have to vote on a new chair of the body. I believe they will take up that business, I believe today, even at their upcoming meeting. And then we'll move forward with submitting new names to move forward in those positions. Those two, and then, of course, due to Act 12, because there's a third position that is vacant on the Fire and Police Commission, or will be vacant soon at least. Gerard Washington, who was a retired member of the Milwaukee Fire Department, I appointed to the commission, has resigned to take a chief of fire department position elsewhere in the country. Because of Act 12, now the fire union, Local 212, will have to generate a list of 3 names, submit those names to me, and I'll select one and forward it to the Common Council for confirmation as well. So there's work to do.
Were you surprised?
Was I surprised by the resignations? I don't know if I was surprised necessarily, because when those commissioners came on board, they came on board knowing that there were these specific powers. This is what their duties were, and that changed. So it's not what they signed up for, essentially. So I don't think that I'm necessarily surprised that you saw a resignation or 2 that came out of this.
One of the other 2 openings will be submitted by the list of the police, from the police union then?
From the fire union, due to Wisconsin Act 12.
Then the other 2, you're replacing Commissioner Washington with the list submitted by the fire union. One of the 2 other openings then with Sheriff Falone, Vice Chair Avalos, will one of those 2 openings be replaced by a list of candidates submitted by the police union?
No, because there presently is, and this was because we filled the Fire and Police Commission with 9 members. It was my desire as mayor to make sure that folks who had experience on the Milwaukee Police Department as a retiree and the Milwaukee Fire Department as a retiree were seated on the Fire and Police Commission as well. So we already accomplished that. So there presently is a retired police officer who sits on the Fire and Police Commission. So the MPA would not need to submit a commissioner to sit on the commission to me.
And I'm just going to interject here, if we could limit it to 1 question per reporter due to time constraints of the participants. Thank you.
Quick question for all 3 gentlemen. You've all expressed some satisfaction with the overall drop in crime. Wanted to ask what your satisfaction is like regarding violent crime, especially when you consider that although homicides are down by 1/3, non-fatal shootings are mostly flat from last year and still very elevated compared to pre-pandemic levels.
Well, I mean, that's where all of us will concur that there remains to be work to do. Nobody is celebrating right now. We understand that there still are issues out there, and that's why we're encouraging members of the community to step up and be a part of the team. So whether you're reporting that information anonymously to Crime Stoppers, that's helping out the efforts. If you're reporting that information anonymously to the Milwaukee Police Department, or even on the record to the Milwaukee Police Department, that helps out the efforts. If you report that information to your Common Council member, who then forwards that information over to the Milwaukee Police Department at your behalf, that also helps the effort. If you're out there putting together block watches, block clubs, activating the public space on your neighborhood. That also deters crime. That helps in the effort. So I think I can speak for all of us, really, to say that there remains to be work to do, and each and every single one of us is committed to doing that work in a holistic way.
Chief, can you talk a little bit about the curfew enforcement with Operation Summer Guardian, and if that's been successful, if you've been writing citations to parents and kids?
So it's still early. I know that we just had a press conference a couple weeks ago in regards to this operation. You see some of the examples of what we are able to obtain through the enforcement from the firearm aspect. But in regards to the curfew, we are making progress, but I want to level set this. This is not about enforcing curfew. This is about in regards to ensuring that we have the best safe aspect of the neighborhood environment for our kids and for our public. Year to date, we have over 30 citations that were issued. We are still continuing to, put that as a tool to be utilized, but it's not the only tool, and it's not the first tool. But there is, again, as the mayor talked about and as the Director Hamilton talked about, it's a concerted effort in regards to parents know where your kids are at. Understand that there are time limits in regards to how they can stay outside, how long they can stay outside. So understanding that this is a tool of more of a last resort rather than first resort. This is something that is, a more focused worldview, and that I would be very pleased not to issue one citation. But accountability is real. We need to understand that there are consequences to our actions, and that not only is it for our youth, but it's also for the parents who are responsible for the youth in regards to being held accountable, that we're seeing unfortunate incidents of our young ones being harmed or doing harm. Either one of them is unacceptable.
We're going to take one more question.
Just following the children being shot in the past couple of days, I went into the neighborhood as well, and one thing that stood out to me was these children are afraid to go outside. I mean, it's summer. I guess my question is, how do we protect these children? Because obviously, if they want to go and play outside, like we all did when we all grew up.
So an important word that you just said is how do we? Ensuring that we are putting efforts in the collaborative effort. As we are standing here before you all, you see the collective efforts between the mayor's office, the police department, our Office of Violence Prevention, but also so many others. In regards to our, partners out there, community partners or business partners, there is a role for all of us to have that type of impact. Find that part that speaks to you, that you can get involved in, whether it's supporting Camp Rise and ensuring that our kids are engaged in positive actions, supporting our neighborhood community stakeholders, the Safe and Sounds, like I said, the Red Rebels or other groups that need that type of support, whether it's from a mentor or whether it's from funding. There's opportunities for us all. We institute POW, Police Athletic League, Friday night, giving them positive activities to do, because as we all know, if we don't help them find activities to do for positive engagement, for doing things that we like to see them engage in, they will find it themselves. And we're not going to like what they find when they do it on their own.
Chief, we heard some people complain that the response time for you to get to the scene is sometimes too long. How do you going to improve that?
So when you say response time, what are we talking about in regards to the response times? Is this for calls for service?
For example, carjack is one of those, or property crimes are, and soon after it said that these numbers are decreased because people are not calling because you take a long time to the scene.
Well, the only pushback I say about that is that we see increase in phone calls and coming into our call centers. We've seen a number of phone calls coming in for what I consider Part 1 crimes or the high emergency crimes. So I think that there is more trust in us because they wouldn't call us if they didn't feel that there was a response. But that comes with challenges. We all know in regards to working through our staffing, we're ensuring that we're making sure that our sworn officers are out there doing sworn things. So how do we help that out? We expand our online services, meaning that for those lower item calls for certain type of thefts, even we have just expanded now to garage burglaries. Or if you don't have someone who is identified as a suspect, it's just your lawnmower is gone, whatnot, you can now do an online submittal rather than calling for a squad to respond. These things open up resources for our community. We understand we need to make sure that we're being as efficient, as effective as possible. We have renegotiated with our toll. We used to have tolls that we had officers waiting for 2 hours. Now it's down to 30 minutes. What does that mean? It means that officers are now back into service, be able to serve. But we also have to continue to work for alternative methods to be able to respond to these calls for service. Working on our community service officers, which is called the CSO. They are helping for those lower levels. Working with our community partners in regards to some of the different opportunities for mental health issues or trauma. Because we understand some of these things are not the police department's wheelhouse. And we're more than willing to share in regards to the responsibility to respond. So I know there's challenges, and as we get into summer months, things become a little bit more challenging as we see some of these behaviors out there, but we're working diligently and intentionally in regards to making sure that we give the best service possible to our community.
Chief, how are you preparing for the changes with the FPC that are coming?
Working with them, that's how.
Chief,
All right.
can I ask one real
One
quick on the
more
non-fatal
question.
shootings? Chief, do you have any insight into why non-fatal shootings are steady and homicides are down? Is this just luck? Is this medical professionals being better at treating gunshot wounds? Why is that?
I would say it's all of the above in regards to that we have so many different partnerships. We have officers who are engaging in, triage type of behavior for those who are harmed by gunfire. We have a great medical team. I know we got one of the best in the state in regards to at the freighter. But we also have a lot of work with our community partners. We had a bigger issue in regards to domestic violence where we have ramped up our commitment to the high-risk domestic violence team, working with Children and Family Truth Center and also Family Peace Center and also our other culture-specific domestic violence. But we do still see the main driver of some of these violence behaviors, poor conflict resolution. Director Hamilton talked about it. We need to be able to make sure that we have proper ways to resolve our issues. Things that are not worthy or worth putting a firearm into the situation is still being involved. And so that's a collective effort in regards to us understanding how do we work together to say, hey, let's tone this behavior down, let's do some better conflict resolution, let's make sure our weapons are secure, make sure that we're holding people accountable for buying weapons for those who should not be in possession of weapons, because those things are still driving both of these particular unfortunate crime numbers in regards to poor conflict resolution in our community.
Chief, can you talk about some of the reasons why the auto thefts have been down while carjackings are up?
So the bigger issue is in regards to the enforcement aspect of it, where we are ensuring that we are carjackings are random. We need to make sure that we're in the right places when these particular incidents are occurring. We do have a reduction in motor vehicle task force, but we're putting another effort into our robberies, carjackings, looking for particular crews. The unfortunate thing is sometimes when we do our what's called a case management for these crews, they might have 2-3 incidents under their belts before we're able to put together the particular response and bring people into custody. So the carjackings, the robberies are impulsive. There is more of a strategy of where things are occurring. We need information from our community to make sure that we know who are out there, because we see a lot of repeat offenders. But we're going to put in the same efforts that we have for the motor vehicle task force in regards to our carjacking robbery issue in our city. Thank you.
You guys, the numbers,
Thank you.
The numbers are over here on the end of the table. So those are the quarterly numbers if you need those. And again, if you have any other questions,